Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. So, Switzerland had elections today, and they had a referendum. The referendum was approved by Swiss voters, which they have now backed an an ED, which would abolish the rental tax. So, reading this article, it says here Swiss citizens have approved the introduction of an electronic proof of identity, electric identity, and the abolition of the rental tax for home owners. The final figures show 50.4% of voters backed the EID, electric ID, and 57.7% approved a reform of home ownership taxes. Although it's not a surprise that both votes passed, the rental tax outcome was a lot clearer than predicted by the polls, and the ED result was a lot closer. It was on course to be rejected until votes from the last canton, which is Zurich, which is the capital of Switzerland, were added. The turnout is projected to be 50%, which is higher than expected. So this is our results in regards to the ballot measure. You'll see here, this is by state in Switzerland. You'll see 57% overall. This is for the electric ID law. And you'll see all in green have approved, except for the ones in orange. The territories of Vallis, Vaud, Fribourg, and Neuchtal. Yeah, Vaud is right here. You also have Fribourg. You got Jura, and then this tiny one right here, Basel City. All right, so it's a little complicated. I would imagine that what would the electric ID law even do in return? Yeah, let's go ahead and learn a little bit about that. The electric ID bill had been supported by both chambers of parliament with a large majority. However, an opposing committee brought up concerns that privacy couldn't be guaranteed. The committee collected over 50% signatures for a referendum against the law. For that reason, it went to the ballot box. Interrupting the close result Interpreting the close result on Sunday, political scientist Lukas Goldauer told Swiss Public Television, SRF, that since the COVID pandemic, he had observed a growing mistrust of state solutions, particularly in conservative regions. And I would imagine that these areas in green are more conservative, okay? These are the conservative areas in Switzerland. Although, let's be honest, these are probably liberal if you apply this to American political terms. But obviously, in European mind, this is conservative, which is quite simple here. Olga Baranov, Secretary General of the CH Association, which campaigned in favor of the electric ID, believed the subject remained difficult to grasp for some sections of the population. It's now essential that the government commits itself to better explaining the challenges of digital technology in our country, she said. She warned that without this effort, Switzerland risks falling further behind in this area. Surprise at the closeness of the result is also palpable in the camp of those opposed to electric ID. Guarantees were missing from this law, and a lot of people that realize this, said Jonas Sulzer, a member of the referendum committee. He pointed to the discrepancy between the vote in the parliament, which was largely in favor of the project, and that of the people who were much more divided. So that was, of course, that. And Switzerland has approved an EID measure into law. Now, a lot of people are probably thinking, what about the cantonal taxes on second homes? Okay, actually, never mind. This is right here, electric ID law. Right here, what we were looking at is the tax homes right here. So pardon me. We'll talk about rental tax later, but this is your electric ID law results. A lot of orange. You could imagine that a lot of these are progressive, but ultimately what followed was conservatives ended up winning the ballot measure at hand, taking home these said victories. And I agree with principle. There should be electric ID. I mean, like, seriously. I mean, like, this is more about voter security. And Switzerland has the same deal in our country right here in the United States. They're struggling with voter fraud. They're struggling because of the contentions of COVID-19. So I understand why a lot of Swiss supported this. And obviously, and unfortunately, this was much closer. Why? Because you got more woke people in Switzerland than you have woke people in the United States. They think that voter rights, everyone has a right. Everyone does have the right to vote, but everyone also has a right to a secure and safe election. So it can't get any more simpler than that. So this is the result. Switzerland approving their ballot measure in a very tight race. Common sense wins, but obviously with the result in play, not all of Switzerland has common sense. The cantonal taxes on second homes, you can clearly see, was a landslide, mainly to let's learn a little bit more what that rental tax has to say. The reform of the home ownership taxes intend to abolish a tax owners have to pay on property they live in. To do this, the cantons will be compensated with an optional new tax on second homes. This move is in the sense of a compromise. Both chambers of parliament and the government had supported the reform. Opponents such as the left-wing Social Democratic Party and the Green Party were concerned about the loss in tax revenue. There's a very clear logistic divide, and political scientist Lucas Golder, after the result was confirmed on Sunday in the German-speaking part of Switzerland, there was a very clear mobilization and appeal to people in rural areas. According to Golder, there was a conflict between the owners and tenants in the vote, but there are also some tenants who are hoping to insert or buy their own property, and the majority of them also voted in favor. So you got stuff like this, and with this said result, yeah, you have of course you see the progressives have taken major L's in this, and I don't know what you consider progressive. Like, I wonder, this is not common sense to me. I wonder what true conservatives, like, I know Trump would lose if he would run in Switzerland. It says that Kamala would have won Switzerland by 80% if she were running against Trump in this country. So what's considered Democrat Party platform is conservative in Switzerland. And that said, Switzerland is a center-right country, quote unquote, even though they are pretty liberal on other occasions, which begs me to differ of how I would have voted in this said race. But I would be 100% voting yes in these options. I do support lowering the taxes on the second homes, and I support the electric ID law. This is obviously a huge win for common sense, and these type of races fly under the radar. But comparing these races, like, for instance, the election and the electric ID, voter ID law, comparing this to the United States, yeah, it's unpopular in Europe because Europe's woke. Europe has gone the drain. And this makes us obviously appreciate very strongly our elections here in the United States and that freedom we have. So anyway, what do you guys think in regards to this video? Let me know down below. And as always, I'll see you all in the next political episode.